Welcome to another Let's Play brought to you by Podcast 17 and Planet Phillip. Today we are... Oops, sorry about that. Today we are Let's Playing Half-Life, and we're going to be playing the chapter Zen. Now, Zen is an extremely short chapter. I think it's actually one of the shortest chapters in the entire Half-Life series, depending on, how fast you go. It's really easy. But I find that the whole Zen architecture, in this point on in the Half-Life series, is one of the most interesting. It's so unique, and there's so much you can really take away from it. The first thing you'll notice when you're on Zen... Actually, let's talk about what Zen is. Zen is also known as the Border World. And the reason it's called the Border World is because, by Earthlings, or humanoids, or whatever, is because they use it to slingshot into local space. What that means is when they're... And I've explained this at the beginning of the Let's Play, but we'll just sort of recap. The way teleportation works on Earth is that either... one of two ways. Either one, you have to teleport, for long-haul teleportation, you have to teleport first to Zen, the border world, and then back to real space. Think of it kind of like Minecraft, with the nether portals, if any of you play Minecraft. In order to teleport long hauls, you have to first go through the border world, which is the nether, to go short distances. That's kind of how it works here. The other way, and the more advanced way, which is what the Black Mesa scientists were studying, was really tapping into the materials of Zen without having to actually cross over into Zen. You just sort of tap into the materials or the chemicals or whatever is in the Zen atmosphere to sort of use that to slingshot yourself back into the local space. So at the end of Half-Life, you kill the Nihilith. And it's really unsure what happens to Zen at that point, because we never really go back in the entire Half-Life series. There is some speculation. For example, the long-haul teleportation in Half-Life 2 probably wouldn't be possible if Zen was completely destroyed, or if there wasn't a border world to tap into. Also, at the end of Half-Life 1, the G-Man says his employers have retaken control of Zen. So why is Zen also important? That's the one reason why it's important. That's why humans are here, because they use it to teleport to local space. The reason Zen is also important is because the Nihilith creatures, and the Nihilith creatures being the Nihilith and the Vortigaunts, have been almost pushed into a corner, and that corner is Zen by the Combine. So they were being invaded by the Combine, and their point of retreat was Zen. Hence, that's how we find the Nihilith creatures, or the Vortigaunts and the Nihilith, and they hence retreat to Earth space, since we're using Zen as a slingshot. And that's how the whole sequence of events happens. That's how the Combine discover Earth, is through Zen, and because the Vortigaunts were essentially retreating, and it just so happened that we were using the space at the same time. So really, really interesting things going on. Visually, Zen is actually trapped in a nebula. It has no quote-unquote planetoids, and there are no planetoids for us to explore. They never really show themselves in the Half-Life series, or there's no evidence of them at all. But as you can see through the skybox, it's really just a nebula. And within this nebula are these asteroids. Like, here's a big one here, and then there's sort of these floating rocks that orbit the asteroid. But the interesting thing, really, about Zen is its gravity. Because you would think if you're just floating around in a nebula, the gravity would be close to nothing. But there is some sort of downward push. Whether this was just a gameplay decision or a technical decision, or actually a plot decision, is left to be really unknown. But you would think in real space, if you can imagine it, you'd either be gravitating around these giant masses of asteroid, which this obviously isn't big enough to pull in like our own gravity, or you would just be floating around in space. So it's curious that you're always floating downwards. Like, this is what happens when you float downwards in Zen. You just sort of fade out. Oh, sorry about that. And you go back to the start. So also, you can see in the Zen area or in Zen here, that there's an HEV suit. We learned last in Lambda Core, right at the end of Lambda Core, that other scientists were exploring Zen for for various materials to study for teleportation technology. What else can we talk about Zen? We'll talk a little bit about the ecosystem in a second. That's really about it. We're going to see a lot of different ecosystems, some things that are inhabitants of Zen, some things that are inhabitants of the Vortigaunt world, or the Nihilith world, or home planet. Really just think of Zen as like a giant universal train station. It's just a mix mash of everything, and everybody has sort of made their mark on Zen. That's why I find it so interesting. So a lot of people don't like Zen, and I think people don't like Zen because they can't jump. So all the people who say Zen is a shitty chapter just say, oh no, you can't jump. That's really what I tell them. Because in Zen, you have to use a combination of long jump module and gravity. Kill that slave there. And through that, you can make these really long jumps onto the orbiting asteroids. Now these ones are a little bit more tricky to get onto, sort of wait for it to pass around. I don't want to hurt myself too much. The spires are really interesting, like really just gaseous spires. There's just a lot there's a lot to imagine in Zen, you know? It's like your mind is just in overdrive, really. Okay, so now we're on the lower orbit of the Zen chapter's rock.
Morphine administered.
And basically what it does is it just sort of orbits around this the center mass. I like just riding it for a little bit, killing off the little hound eyes. We might get a few in a second. There's one. Gonna go under it? Yeah. Okay, we'll get off here. Whee! Alright, so this is one of the first real interesting bits of Zen. As you can see, there's another HEV suit scientist here. This is what's called a healing pool. And the healing pools, I mean, there's not much to say other than you stand in them and you get health. They have this sort of glowing aspect to it. It has the same properties as the healing shower, which we'll see a little bit later when we start going into like the sort of the slave pits of Zen. What else can I say about it? Not much. Yeah, that's about it. This is a healing pool. It's cool. You know, it's basically the alternative to health stations. Ow. I always forget about those things. It's the alternative to health stations in the Black Mesa complex. Okay, so here's another piece of fauna or flora. It's kind of hard to tell between the two. This is called a light stock. It's just basically, in the SDK, it's just called plant light. What it basically does is it'll light up the area, so it gives you some sort of ambient light along with these weird, I don't know, Nightmare Before Christmas things. And when you get close to them, they'll sort of duck in and hide themselves, which adds some really cool atmosphere. So it's always dark around you, but never dark on the outside. I think that's really cool. It's sort of opposite of what you're used to. So, if we just find a hole here we go. Oh, nope, not that hole. Maybe this one? Nope, that's not a hole. Ow. Here it is. Walk right by it. We can get into the center bit of the Zen chapter. And we see a whole bunch of more flora. We see this sort of red lava goo type stuff. We see the plant lights from the ceiling. These weird... Can we get on top of this one? These weird sort of plant structures or tree structures that are almost breathing and alive. That's not to say normal trees aren't alive. So this is sort of a little puzzle element. What I like to do first is, there's sort of these butterflies in this nest. And it's all very abstract. All of Zen is very, very abstract, which is why I love it so much. So if you release these butterflies from this nest, they'll sort of fly around and flock in the area. And it sort of goes to show you how talented some of the Valve designers are, because something like this, something scripted to this mass, is what I expect to be very difficult. I've done some scripting in Worldcraft back when I was younger, and I don't even know how I would start to approach something like this. So they just sort of hover around in this formational pattern. And when you open up the chambers, one of them, I don't know which one, there we go, this one right here will sort of land into it, situate itself, and activate. I think that's really cool. So they'll just stay in this sort of formational pattern until you open up their respective buttons. I don't know what to call them. Open up the next one. I like watching them fly around. I mean, you could just open them all up at once and just sort of do their thing. But one more. Very serene. Okay, so we've opened the portal to the exit portal. Let's inside it. And we're on Gonark's lair. So like I said, very short chapter. Extremely short. So we're going to save here real quick. And I'll see you guys at the next Let's Play before the Gonark comes after me. There it comes. Okay, see you soon.